This is your 20-minute podcast, where we do our best to give you useful information in 20 minutes or less. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Now, here's your host, David Brower.
This is David Brower with your 20-minute podcast, and our special guest today is Julie Coraccio. She's an award-winning professional life organizer, author, and certified life coach who specializes in supporting people in clearing clutter in all areas of their lives, as well as being more mindful and getting organized. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much for having me, David.
You bet. Good to have you here. And mindful just seems to be like one of the buzzwords in everything the last couple of years, doesn't it? Mindfulness, be mindful about this.
I think it's so important, though, because I think for so long we haven't been mindful. And it's about bringing it into everyday life. You can say, well, I can be mindful when I meditate. And what I'm saying is, let's be mindful when you're at home or when you're working in your business and making those little shifts, which I believe can have a huge impact on your life.
Chief Possibility Officer. I love that. How did you come up with that fabulous title?
Well, that has been I work with a coach. I'm a firm believer of that. I also do some women's group. And so it's kind of happened through my work with her. And so what she always says is, in the province of my mind, our mind, we're limitless. So what else is possible? So I have a big sign as I glance over here in my office, and I always ask myself that, what else is possible? And I've seen it in my own life where okay, I have this little goal and boom, something else pops out, which was better than I could have even imagined.
How cool is that?
Yeah, don't limit ourselves. Really, we can create the life that we choose. It's just our mind, and we limit and stop ourselves.
We are our own worst enemy, aren't we?
Oh, without a doubt. And I include myself in that statement. Absolutely.
Yep. So you're an author. What have you written? It looks like, well, you have your own podcast, but you've got a book also, right?
How to Declutter Your Life. It's a course that you can do via video or via workbook.
How fun.
Yeah, took me a year to do it, and I felt like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm wading through molasses, but I'm thrilled with the final, and I'm going to have some books up on Amazon. I had to truthfully get through a big hurdle, like, oh my gosh, do you want to open yourself up and get rid of my fear and doubts? And so we've got some stuff we're working on to some books to get up on there as well.
Good for you. Fear is an amazing topic, isn't it? I think several of my guests, and probably including you, could do a whole podcast just on fear.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt, because that's really what stops us. And, was it Eleanor Roosevelt who said we have nothing, or no, Franklin that said we have nothing to fear but fear ourselves? And really, when you break it down, it's false. It's false evidence appearing real. It's most of the times our fears are made up. They aren't what we think they're going to be. And, I used to do a show where I would interview body, mind, and spirit experts. And every single person that was on the show, and as well as my own personal experience, healing, sometimes there was this fear of actually doing it. And when we went through the process, we discovered, oh my gosh, it was so much easier to heal and do the work than to hold on to the fear and the anxiety and the energy of taking that first step and thinking, oh my gosh, why didn't I start this 10 years ago?
Boy, isn't that the truth? I started, I've been doing voiceover for a long time. And I was working part-time as a director of marketing for an automotive group up until this fall. And I wanted to go back and do voiceover work full-time. And I was fearful of that, of losing that real paycheck, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I made the leap of faith and did it and struggled through it. And one day I just, whatever it was, said, okay, here we go. And my wife looked at me a couple days later and she said, I don't know what you did, but man, you faced your fears and it's obvious.
Mm-hmm. You shifted.
Yeah, I shifted. My business has been going great. And that was September 30th of last year. So knock on Formica, facing the fear was really a big deal.
And, and that tells you, again, what else is possible, and that this fear is this false evidence appearing real and doing it. And I did the same thing with my business. I took a leap of faith. I turned 40. I wasn't married at the time. And I thought, well, what's the worst that can happen? And truly, I was in a really awful job, which I'm grateful for every day, because if they hadn't been so horrible to me, I don't know if I would have had the courage. to just jump out there and start my own business. And I thought, what's the worst that can happen? And, if the business doesn't take off, I'll find another job. And so that was my attitude. It was really freeing because it really allowed me to go for it. And I don't know if I would have otherwise.
Boy, that is the truth. So we mentioned it a moment ago, we are our own worst enemy and we get in our way. But sometimes that sense of comfort, and this is my comfort zone, whether it sucks or not, it's really hard. You know what I mean? It's really hard to break away from that piece of crap job until you really get to face your fears.
But, I feel this breaks my heart because I feel a lot of people are trapped in jobs that they absolutely hate. And I don't remember where the quote is from or if it was from a play about how they talked about how many people live lives of quiet desperation. And I don't want to be one of those people.
Oh,
and thankfully I'm not. And there is no judgment for people who are in that place or space, except that I don't want to be there, and that I hope that I can support people in making that shift and moving out of that if that's somewhere where they're stuck.
Absolutely right. And so oftentimes I think, and again, I just kind of base it on my own experience and people I've talked to, but oftentimes you don't know you're in that place because it's what you're used to, right?
Yes. And you can't see another way out.
Right. And then all of a sudden somebody goes, "What the heck are you doing? Why aren't you over here doing that?" Well, I don't know. I didn't think it was possible.
Right. So ask yourself what else is possible. And expanding, at a certain point in my life, I couldn't have seen past my nose. But as I've grown and I've worked on myself, I can see the horizon. I can see past that. I can see into space, or however you want to say it. But I've broadened my perspective. And when you're able to do that, you can say, wow, that really is possible. I can move forward. I can change that. I can do that.
And oftentimes I think we have to hit the bottom of something before we figure out we have to bounce back out of that and figure out a new way to place ourselves, right?
Yes, and to make changes. And the thing that I want to emphasize that I think is really important, and I had to learn this lesson, everything is a choice, and doing nothing is a choice, because so many times people will remain passive and say, I don't have a choice, but that's not true. Doing nothing is a choice. And again, there's no judgment. To me, that's about having that awareness, having that aha moment. Oh, I do have a choice, and doing nothing is a choice. And I really believe that. Again, and use what makes you feel good, what makes you comfortable, because remember, if it doesn't feel right, you're not going to want to you won't be able to attract or create what you desire. And so ask for help and ask for guidance. And that's the first part. And I know as a woman, it used to be really difficult for me to ask for help. I couldn't do it. And so that has been a big switch for me. And then the second half of that is when you ask for support, then listen. Because I believe you are being given signs all the time. It's whether or not you are open to it and paying attention.
Could not agree more. That is absolutely right. At least in my experience, because when you look at all the opportunities, when you're in a place where your mind is open to receive what's possible, all of a sudden you go, really? 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 And then you get goosebumps, like I just got goosebumps right then. And you figure out a way to put your toe in the water.
And then you also, if it sounds nuts, because I remember something crazy happened and my intuition was like, just throw this out there. Just throw a TV show out there. I'm like, okay, really? And I did it. It didn't make any sense and nothing has happened with it. And that's okay. And I don't know if it ever will, except that what I believe was important for that is I listened to my intuition. I trusted it and followed it. And you never know where something leads. I mean, when I look back on my life and how things have unfolded, it hasn't been from the likely source sometimes. And so you just never know what you put out there, how it's going to come back to you in a different way.
Well, I agree. My experience is the same. I mean, I was in radio for a very long time. And so I would think of these programming things to do. And, let's play love songs. Nobody's doing that. And so that was a bust. And then 2 years later, everybody in the world is playing love songs. It's like you think of things sometime, but it's such what am I trying to say? It's freeing to be able to experience defeat, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't think of myself when I make a mistake, and I'm making quotation marks here. If I've learned from it, how is it a mistake? How am I supposed to be better or learn? I can't if I don't make mistakes. And look at someone like Michael Jordan, who did who was cut from his junior high basketball team and is probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest basketball players in the world. And you think, wow, if it can happen to him. And that's why I think it's really important to not let other people get in your head and tell you what you can and cannot do. Because I think sometimes, whether it's a parent, whether it's a family member, whether it's a friend, sometimes we have to be really careful about who we tell our dreams to and who we tell our desires to, because there are the naysayers out there who maybe don't have faith in themselves and don't believe it's possible, who will try to, I don't know, it's not always intentional, but just kind of the way they are, will try to ruin someone else's dreams. And don't allow that to happen. Be very selective of who you share what you're trying to create with.
And if you're a person like me who is extremely successful in overthinking things, I'm my own worst critic, and so I'm busy enough judging my own stuff. I don't need somebody else to judge me while I'm experimenting with what's possible out there.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm the same way. And at the same time, like, so for instance, with my course, I had someone edit that and look at that, and that was extremely valuable. She was able to give a lot of really good feedback and made the course even better than when I had it. And so it's deciding, okay, what the pursuit is, and do I need from advice from someone? Is it personal or professional? And asking for that. And then being really listening. Yeah. Is this going to help me? Is it right for me? Like, I had someone criticize. They did it in a really nice way, criticized my podcast recently. And they said, I can tell when you read and then when you go off script, and you sound much better when you go off script. And so I talked about how, okay, that's great, but also I'll forget something. There's a reason why I do this script. A lot of times if you're clearing clutter and not organized, you're overwhelmed. And the last thing I want to do is have this rambling podcast. And so it was really nice, and there was helpful information, but at the same time, I had to decide, okay, what's best for me? And ultimately, and I tell this with my clients, I support you. You have the answers within. It's my job to help you realize what those are, because you know what's best for you. Yeah, I don't.
I'm just here to support you in a genuine, authentic way and not get in your way while I'm doing that. Do you find that to be a tough line to walk sometimes?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. Sometimes, but truthfully, I always tune in before each client to ask that, for my highest wisdom and their highest wisdom to come through. And I always open things and say, like, I want an open dialogue going on with the client. And I had a client recently, I really enjoyed working with her, except that she didn't do any of her work. And I had to say, it's not worth it for you to pay. It's not worth it for you or my time to do this because you're not willing to do the work. And again, there's no judgment. Maybe it's not the right time for you, but it's, your life is not going to change if you don't take any action to do it. So I think always being honest and straightforward is the way to go. And, I'm a huge fan of the book, The 4 Agreements, because number 2 is don't take anything personally. So if you get upset of me being honest, then that's a mirror to you to look within. And the same thing, if I get, oh no, I've upset the client. Well, okay, Julie, let's take a step back. What's this this is about you. What's going on here?
Yeah. I love that too, by the way. For my 50th birthday, I gave that book to all my friends.
Oh, wow. You're generous. That's really nice. You know what? I really like that idea. I'm going to borrow that idea for my next birthday, I think.
Yeah, please do, because it was just remarkable. And, the book stuck with me ever since. My wife's been a big fan of it. And so, and all of that kind of leads to honesty, authenticity, integrity, and you have to be really consistent with all those things with your clients, right?
You do. And the other thing I want to say about being authentic, be your own person, because it's been interesting to me how I've had people take stuff that I've done and maybe change a word. And, at one point when it was the website, I had to say, okay, I'm going to, take legal action if you don't change this. But have faith that what you do and your ideas are fantastic the way they are. You're unique. You have this unique perspective. Honor that. Don't just take someone else's ideas and, just hardly do anything and then package it as your own. And the thing with that, and it used to bother me for a really long time. And my brother said to me, he's also another business owner. He said, don't focus your energy on that and don't waste your time. He said, if it's something like the website where you need to take action, do that. But the reality is people sense and know when you are inauthentic. And when it is not you. And so when I really took a step back and said, okay, if they take your quote and steal it, it is what it is. Don't burn all your energy on that, and just trust that who you're meant to serve will find you, and trust that they will be taught a lesson or whatever they need out of it. But that just people pick up on it, even if they can't articulate it, because we're reading energy all the time, whether or not we're aware of it.
Couldn't agree more. It's funny. It's probably the 20th time I've said that. I had a thing happen to me. It was, a long time ago. And I was bowling professionally, and it wasn't the big tour and all that kind of stuff. I was just trying to bowl in some regional tournaments. And I bought this new ball, and I hired this coach. And I was having the darndest time getting my ball out near the gutter so it would curve back into the pins, if you know what I mean. And so he says, Brower, trust is a must or your game is a bust.
I love that.
And so ever since then, I've just inserted trust is a must or your business is a bust. Trust is a must or your life is a, you know what I mean? I just keep inserting, and I keep using it over and over again because it just rang so true to me, and it gave me confidence. You know, in fact, the next day I won the tournament.
Hey, good job! I met my husband bowling, so I like the bowling analogy.
Yeah, pretty cool. All right, so coaching, professional organizing, declutter your life courses, clearing clutter to create the life you choose, deserve, and desire. Your website is reawakenyourbrilliance.com, and that's the best way for people to get a hold of you and possibly work with you and learn from you?
Absolutely, and I'm thrilled. I just have an updated website. We have a couple more tweaks, but you can schedule an appointment with me. I do a free 20-minute consult because I want to make sure I'm the best fit for you and to make sure that I can support you.
And you have a podcast, Clearing the Clutter Inside and Out. Tell us about that.
So that airs every Tuesday at 1 p.m. And then I also throw a bonus episode out there that is usually Saturday morning. It really concentrates on clearing your clutter in all areas. We don't just talk about physical, we talk emotional, spiritual, energetic, mental, emotional, relationships. If it's clutter, which my definition is anything that prevents you from creating the life you choose, deserve, and desire, we're going to talk about it.
Nice. And your YouTube channel? What do you have on there?
Is Julie Coraccio. So it's all the podcast episodes. So when I shoot, I do video as well as audio. And then if you want to see my smiling face, you go to YouTube. And if you just want to walk in and get some exercise in, then you can listen to it via podcast.
You know, I wonder why I didn't do the video thing on my podcast. I never thought about it. I should think about that because I have a YouTube channel. Have you found a lot of benefit to that?
Oh, 1,000%. Because you're reaching two different audiences.
Right. Huh. Okay, I'm in.
There, go for it.
Julie Coraccio, the Chief Possibility Officer, asking the question, what else is possible? And if nothing else out of this 20 minutes, everybody should remember that question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Hey, really enjoyed it a lot. You've been listening to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower and our special guest, Julie Coraccio. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/your 20-minute podcast.
Until next time, don't forget to download your free audiobook at audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast. That's audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast for your free audiobook. And thanks for listening to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower.